Welcome to Fire and Water, the podcast, coming of age in this age, where we seek to cultivate wise leaders one show at a time by connecting with today's elders. I am your host, Juanita Robertson. Welcome to Fire and Water, the podcast. I am so excited because I'm here with my sister girlfriend, Dr. Enolia. She's an Ojibwa grandmother. And oh my gosh, I met Enolia, was probably a little bit over a year ago.
Okay.
And I just knew her. I knew that we knew each other immediately. And it's like we belong to each other. And often will say that I roam the earth looking for giants, and she's a giant. And so and I think we all have the capacity to be giants, but some of us know we're giants and some of us don't. And I just want to say welcome to Fire and Water. What would you like to share about yourself?
Thank you so much, Juanita. First of all my love to you. And, the feeling is mutual. I am in the presence of a giant. And by the way, all of us came here and we did not come here to play small.
Mm-mm.
We did not come here to play small. We came here for purpose, for our light, and we're stepping in it,
Yes, yes.
stepping
So,
in it.
so our conversation today, this Fire and Water is set up so that I can bring elders from the community to come and share it with the people that are connected with me or who aren't connected with me, who get, connected to this podcast. And I just want us to be in conversation. We were having a really juicy conversation as we started about
Yes,
peace around rebirth. And
yes.
so let's share some of that. What you were going to share with me a story about rebirth that you've been experiencing. It was something that you said that I think is powerful.
Well, we all go through what I like to call a leap of orbit or a leap of an octave, right? And what I mean by that, in that leap of octave, is that if you were to look at a piano and you can know that you can see in the key of C, and they say take it one octave higher,
Yeah.
right? And really, what are we all doing but playing our lives in a certain octave, and we're ready to go to that next octave higher?
Yes.
And that leap of orbit to me is the rebirth. And that happens in several different ways. Sometimes it happens in a trauma and something changes our lives forever. Some of us die and we come back.
Yeah.
Some of us just have this precipice in the moment of our lives that changes us forever.
Yeah.
Some of us want that conscious transformation so much that we work towards it and then we transition to that leap and take that jump to the next level.
Mm.
So it happens for us individually differently all the times. I've had several leap of orbits,
Yeah, me too.
several times where I was reborn. And it's like you're coming down the birth canal, everything that you love and is just pushed away for the moment, stripped away for that moment, for you to get through the circumstance and the situation and come out with a new attitude on the other end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in describing it that way, whether we've died and we've come back, and that's the trauma that we faced in terms of, facing that new level by which we're going to operate in, or not.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
all understand it and sense it really, really well. What was that for you? Or
Well,
I
I
know you
think,
said,
yeah, I think, yes, trauma. There's times that it's happened for me through a trauma where I just, I couldn't be where I was anymore. I often say when I grow in compassion and lessen in tolerance. It's like I can't tolerate the mess as much as I could before. It's like something shifts.
right.
And I think, trauma is one way that it's happened, but another way that it's happened is I think in spiral dynamics, there's this piece around evolution of consciousness in different stages. And I think
Yes.
there's something about like when we come to a place where we just love and accept who we are at that layer, we're automatically elevated to the next layer. It's
Right.
like going from like junior high to high school, right?
Mhm.
And so then things are like unfamiliar again, and so then you're kind of, wobbly and trying to find your footing, and and get okay. And then when you learn in that level to love and accept yourself at that next level, you're automatically elevated to the next one,
Right,
you know?
right.
And
Except that when we're in it, we don't see it
oh
that
no,
way.
not at all. No,
Yeah.
because it just feels like we're put in this unfamiliar place. And so we actually feel more off balance right away because we're in a new world. And I remember being I was with a former youth volunteer that I had worked with, and we were in court with his sister. They were she was trying to petition the court for early release, and the whole community had shown up. It was amazing. It was like we were all in there together. And what I didn't know until I sat down, it just wasn't conscious in me until I sat down in the courtroom that was packed and full of people, was that the last time I was in a courtroom in that courthouse was when my stepfather was being sentenced for my abuse. And I was
Mm,
by myself on one side, and he and my mother were on the other side. But this time the community had shown up. And so it was packed. So I was getting to re-experience and to heal that part of me through this young man who had been one of my volunteers. And I often describe that day like I didn't know that I was going to die that day. I didn't know. I went into that room one person and I came out another. And when I came out, I wasn't quite sure who I was yet. I was like, I just knew I was different, you know? And then it took a while to like really for me to start to understand. There's still pieces of it, right, that I'm understanding.
yes.
But that was a shift for me. What
Yeah.
about you?
Ooh, I've had several, but I'll name one that a lot of us go through. So I'm at work and I'm working for a corporate entity. And I'm looking at my life and I go, how do I get here? And how do I get the heck out? I don't like my life. I don't like the way that my life is going. I don't like the course of how my life is going. God, please show me another way.
Yeah.
And it was then that I met my first Indigenous grandmother. And she was Ojibwe, grandmother Isabel Mawasaki of the Ojibwe Nation. And I spied her across a field at a conference, and I'm like, that woman's going to teach me.
Mm.
That woman is going to help me get through this. And so I didn't know how to approach a grandmother at the time. And I remember going up to her and introducing myself and say, will you work with me? And she's like, well, what do you want, my dear? She's like, who are you and what do you want?
Yeah.
And at the time, I just said, can you teach me herbalism? Because I didn't know how to ask her at the depths of my heart that I need help and I need a change in my life. And I need to get my life back on course because I just felt like it was out of control. And she's like, come up and see me sometime and we'll discuss it. Well, it took 3 months, but 3 months later, I drove 15 hours up into the northern territories of Canada and Warncliffe and Serpent River. And I got together with her for a weekend, and she's like, if you're really serious about teaching, I hold a retreat. I'll have you come up before the retreat, bring some people to the retreat. And I was like, okay. And she's like, oh, and you can help coordinate this retreat. I'm like, okay, great. Right. That year, I brought 22 women to her retreat.
Mm.
I was going to get taught by this woman. This
Yeah.
woman was going to help me get through this stage of life. What she taught me was another way to live. What she taught me is how to look in the mirror and how to love myself again. What she taught me is that there is more than that which meets the eye and the circumstance. She taught me how to transcend the humanness sometimes.
Mm.
The humanness of like, okay, we have to do this, we have to do that, we have to do this, we have to do that. But what was taking place is that we are energy beings having a human experience. And what we forget as those energy beings is that we shine through every role. If you were to put on a role like a hat, my motherhood, that's a hat.
Mm.
My sisterhood, that's a hat. My grandmahood, that's a hat, right? My employee, my employer.
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah. Every hat that my energetic beingness shines through those roles. And I define those roles. Those roles do not define me. And in our human condition, we tend to allow those roles to define us based on the judgments that people have placed upon those roles.
Yeah.
And a light bulb went on. That, for me, was a leap of orbit. Once I
Yeah.
really understood that the being within me defines everything that I am,
Yeah.
and I was conscious of it all the time, then my life shifted.
Mhm.
And then all that fell in alignment to that life shifted. Make a
Yes.
different decision, have a different outlook, shift your life.
Yes. And one of the things I love about the shift, and you spoke about it a little bit there, is that when we get in alignment, the external starts to be easy. The
Yes.
internal can be hard,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And it's funny because I also study a little bit of sacred harmonics. And what you're really basically saying is that then we're able to play the chord.
Yes. Yes.
The harmony comes into play.
I love it. I
And
love
when
that
we
you
play
put
the
it that way.
chord, yep, everything is in divine alignment and divine flow because we're in harmony
Yes.
and we're singing
Mm. Yeah.
and moving in that harmony versus the discord
Yes.
where the keys clash. And we can stay in discord as long as you want because
Yes.
spirit says, okay, play it out. I'm here and I'm ready. But you're in the same patterns and you're using the same triggers and you're, disputing the same things over and over again. And we're repetitive because if you really step back and look at life as the observer, it's very plain to see your patterns, your triggers, and how you always are.
Yeah.
I saw it for me.
Yeah, one of the things that you just spoke that's been up for me, you talked about approaching your elder and asking for help. I remember with Jojo Pa going up to her and just I had met her once and she was getting ready to go on leave to take care of her mother while her mother was transitioning out of this world. And it was about 6 months later that I met again at a conference. We were working for the same organization, an all staff retreat rather. And I get there and I see her, and the first thing I say is, I've been waiting for you. Now, I don't know like, I had no idea what that meant or why. I just knew that that was what was in my heart. And she just smiled and, laughed. And, she's still around today with me and still teaching me and guiding me and has been all of those different roles for me as well.
Mhm.
And but this piece around like um there's a piece that had been sitting in around reverence and around reverence across cultures. I feel like we have like we're not teaching it or we've forgotten it. I see people approaching elders in a way that's not reverent because it
Mhm.
doesn't take it's like culturally they're not listening for what is appropriate for the elders culture. They're stepping in from their culture and they just want to just go.
Right.
And um and the elders often won't say no right away. Some of them it's like they'll just um and there's usually a way to go and approach the elder um that we're not like learning. And this is really interesting to me right now because, I run a leadership rites of passage cohort. And so the people who are coming through the cohort are stepping into several lineages,
Yes.
you know? And so this piece about what's my responsibility in teaching reverence or holding space for reverence um, for these people who are coming through. What would
And
you
you're
add to
absolutely
that?
right. You're absolutely right. My Ojibwe grandmother shared with me how to approach an elder. And in our tradition, and for those of you who don't know, the same grandmother that I started with is the one who initiated me as an elder. Okay, so full circle all the way back around. And I met with many grandmothers and grandfathers who have taught me, but it's funny that I circle right back to the one I started with. And for the Ojibwe tradition, you are to present tobacco to the elder in a red cloth, possibly. But if you don't have the red cloth, as long as you present tobacco to the elder and the formal asking of what you're looking for, and the elder accepts that tobacco. In the Lakota tradition, the elder has the right to refusal 3 times, but upon the third time, they have to accept,
Hmm.
right? But they have the right to refusal. So you actually give them that tobacco in the red cloth 3 times, or first time, if they say yes, it's done. If they
Yeah.
say no, right to refusal. Every tradition is different. You need to take the time to learn. And you need to just acknowledge we are a culmination of many cultures, but there's a mutual respect that we all have. Ask the question,
Yes.
how do I approach you, and how is it appropriate to approach you? To formally make a request.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I just had someone do that, made a request of me, and she wanted to do it online. So what did she do? She put a picture of sage. She lit the sage, and she shared that, and she shared the tobacco, and she did this beautiful little ceremony. She says, "Grandmother, I have a formal request of you,"
Yeah.
and that's what came to me in
Yeah.
that beautiful picture. So even though we're at a distance, that's what came to me,
Beautiful.
and it was beautiful.
Mm. What do you think is important for us to know in this time?
Mm. I think it's important to know how to go inwards and how to trust yourself. Because what's happening is that we're in an interrupt driven society where every single thing around you is there and designed to distract you from who you truly are and how powerful you truly are. And what happens is that we look so much externally outside of ourselves that we've forgotten what it's like to be internal, even sitting as much as sitting down and reading a book
Hmm.
and taking time and having fun. We talked about this a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
It's important for us to be conscious of everything that's going on around us and everything that we do that contributes to that everything. Because if we can be conscious and trust ourselves, then we can navigate through the story of life. Then we can navigate through circumstances, stories, dramas, and we can be that lighthouse, right? That beacon in the midst of the storm
Yeah.
that always knows how to light and is always in its strength, right?
Yeah.
And let the people come out of the storm to us instead of us running around trying to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. I made a commitment years ago with my work that I wouldn't make anything happen. That I'd put it out there, and if the energy was there, then it's like, okay, yes, it's for me. And it's time. If it wasn't, it was because I needed more healing or needed more whatever, or it just wasn't for me, right? Those pieces about how can I trust that everything that shows up for me is in service, you
It's
know?
because we manifest it.
Yes,
We
it's a
manifest
gift.
it.
Yes.
And so, like some people will say, why is there so much pain and suffering in the world, and everything looks like pain and suffering, and everything's pain and suffering? Well, those are the eyes that you chose to look through. And
Yeah.
if you're looking at your pain and your suffering and you don't see the beauty in the world, well, you're going to heighten the pain and the
Yes.
suffering in the world because that's how you chose to look. And we have the gift of, what's the word I want to look at? Amplifying that which
Yes.
we see.
Yes.
Why, when you're reflecting inward and then you look out, we always say look at the positive so that you can amplify the positive. You can amplify the beauty because we are energy,
Yes. And I
right?
think energy follows attention.
And
And
its strengthens
I
and
was,
weakens based on our
yes.
belief systems. And
Yes.
our intuition is everything, is the boost behind that.
Yes.
So if you see pain and suffering, or you see your life that's painful and suffering always, that's what you're amplifying.
So with that, there's a question that comes up for me because one of the things I think is there's this piece too that we have forgotten about elders and the important role of elders and peers in our journey. You know, I heard, and I think it was from Clarissa Pinkola Estes, where she talked about that our intuition is just part of it because oftentimes the trauma gives us a wounded instinct. And it's like if your intuition is the bow and your wounded instinct is a wounded arrow, no matter if you're listening to your instinct and you just alone and you shoot, you're going to miss your target. And so this piece about the important role of elders in helping to guide, like you said, in helping to change that lens, and your peers on the journey who will tell you the truth as you're going, right?
Right.
Who you can interact with. So can you speak a little bit about the importance of elders? Because I think that's one of the things that is um, the lack of us holding that in honor and reverence is blocking people from being able to grow up, to become initiated adults. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's really important in the respect that as an elder, we've been on this earth for a certain amount of years. We've gone through the iterations of our own lives. And God willing, we've learned the lessons within life to be able to pass on. And that's the need.
Yes.
Why repeat it over and over and over and over again? How do you break a cycle? How do you break a pattern? How do you break the trigger? The
Yes.
elder's role is to help you process and learn the lesson. If you can't see it with clarity for yourself, or to understand how to make that leap in that bridge so that you can go to the next level and so that you can turn around and have that ripple effect and impact to the others. And it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Without the elders I've encountered in my life, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
here.
Me
I
neither.
wouldn't be here at all. That first grandmother. We tend as human beings to look at our past and live our past. And that's, to me, this is my opinion, is a mistake.
Yeah.
We are supposed to experience and process our past for the lessons that are learned, but we're supposed to live in the here and now
Yeah.
with those lessons learned as a guidance of what to or not to do. But they are not supposed to define our future and define our here and now. They're supposed to act as a guidance. But with this thing called emotions, we attach
Mm-hmm.
to the past traumas and happenings and things so fully that we choose not to move out of the story. The whole key is that our whole lives is a culmination of stories. And we're
Yeah.
supposed to navigate through the stories. We're supposed to look back at the stories, understand the lessons learned in the stories, so that when a similar story comes back, we don't repeat it, we navigate through it better
Yeah.
because we learned the lessons already. But what happens with individuals is that we get stuck in the stories. And then we're like a dog chasing our tail. And
Yeah.
we don't navigate past it, but we allow the story then to define us.
Yeah.
That's how we're stuck. That's where an elder comes in.
Yeah.
That's when the elder plucks you out of that story and says, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at where you're stuck, look at the story, navigate past it. What qualities do you need, or what is it that you need to embrace in order to move past this story? Learn the lesson and move on, because if we don't take the time to learn the lesson, it keeps repeating until we do. And some people come back a whole nother lifetime because they don't move past the story.
And I think one of the things, and I tell my children this, being smart and creative is not always your friend. because
No.
because you can make up stories that make you feel like you've stepped out of your old story, but it's just a different iteration of the same thing,
Yes, it is.
you know?
And with the players, the people have changed faces, the players have changed, circumstances
Yes.
the same. And that's
Yep.
why people say, how did I get here? What am I doing this again? Why am
Yes.
I doing this again? Because you didn't do it right the first time.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, you have the opportunity to learn this lesson. It is a life lesson that you need to learn.
Yes.
And then when you accept, if you're one of those people who always places blame to somebody else, when you accept the responsibility and stop placing blame to somebody else and own it, that might be the lesson you needed to learn in the story. And then it'll stop happening. When you do the right thing in terms of response and acceptance and standing in your truth in the story, then you don't have to experience that story again. But
Yeah.
spirit tends to bring these things back over and over and over again until we get it.
Yes. I always say that spirit is generous. It'll keep giving you
Yes.
opportunities to heal your trauma time and time again. You know,
Time and
it's
time
okay.
again.
Okay, you can take as long as you need. Here's another opportunity.
Yes, and as an elder, we've experienced this already.
Yes.
We've
Yes.
experienced this. I can name handful of things that I experienced two, three, four times in my life till I finally stepped into the responsibility of it. My role,
Yes.
my responsibility of what
Yes.
I did to actually cause this to happen and why this kept happening with even though the players just changed.
Yeah. I like you said that because it speaks back to the co-creation. If we're in
Yes,
co-creation with the divine, everything that shows up for us, we've called to us to help us move forward,
that's right.
you know? Yeah. And that responsibility piece, one of the things that Jojo Pa would say to me, and I say to people all the time, is it's moving from, the question of why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me?
Mhm.
And that
Absolutely.
changes everything, you
It
know?
does.
Yeah.
It And, elders come into our life for a reason in the season. And I've had quite a few elders that came into my life. And I remember when you talked about Jojo Pa and how you were like, I know that woman, I've known her my whole life. That's who I'm
Yes.
working with. And I remember meeting this other elder named Luz Clara. And I met her in Chile. She was a grandmother of the Mapuche tribe. And I remember going up to her and telling her, I don't know how to tell you this, and I don't know what the right protocol is, but I've seen you in my dreams.
Yeah.
I know you, and I've seen you in my dreams. And please don't think I'm crazy, but I just know you. And that's all I had to say to her. Because the next day we were at a retreat. So the next day she came to me and she's like, I have a message for you.
Yeah.
And it changed my life.
Yeah.
It changed my life. And that message ended up sending me on a 100-mile walk across the east and west Savo parks of Kenya and walking the motherland for the very first time on a pilgrimage.
Yeah.
And again, these journeys and the messengers and the people, it can change our lives if we trust.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm. So, one of the things I'm excited about is that you're coming here to be in my home and to spend some time with myself and with people around here. We have an opportunity to speak with you and to do some one on one sessions with you. So, can you speak a little to like what is that for you? What if someone, if I were to say to you, so why would I come to a one-on-one session with you? What would your answer be? And will it be like?
Each of us brings something to the table. You know, I am an energy medicine woman. I work with energy. And in that training, whether it's working with the ancestors and doing some clearing or soul retrieval or divination or whatever the case may be, we work to see what it is that you're looking for and want shifted in your life. And then we move through it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's first and foremost. What I bring, my strengths, is that I help you navigate through the story. I have formal programs above and beyond just being able to visit with me one on one, too, of personal development. And it's just literally conscious transformation. People don't know where to begin.
Yes.
And what I do is I help you establish that foundation so that you can build upon it, period. I work at the foundational level.
Hmm.
Period. You want to be an entrepreneur? Well, let's get your foundation strong. You can't build a house on sand. You can't be sinking in, you can't say, I want to be a leader and don't trust yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't say, I want to do this, that, and the other, and you don't even trust your own decisions.
Hmm.
Or you don't know how to speak. Or you don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
Or the abuse and the trauma is so forward and front in your life that you can't navigate past it and you see through the eyes of pain for every single thing that you do. All of those pieces, we need to deal with our stuff and
Yes.
we don't know where to begin.
Yeah.
And the alchemical behavioral journey that I take people on
Hmm.
is what gives them that foundation for working. So I coach, I work with energy, and I'm quite the eclectic person. And we
Yeah.
can talk business because I'm a business. I my MBA is in business. We could talk. We could take it any level that you want. I'm really the gift that I bring is I meet people where they're at,
Yeah.
and we can take it from every level. And it doesn't matter what you do in life. That I can transcend the corporate world, the entrepreneurial world, or the common world. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The world is the world.
One of the things that I love about you is that you are a bridge. There's people in this world that I see as bridge people. I think I'm a bridge. I see that in you. It's and bridging across cultures, across beliefs, across ideas. It's like you serve as that very well. And, so for me, just as like I said when we first got on this call, how excited I was to be in conversation with you, I'm also excited for the people who can trust their own intuition that they need to connect and maybe don't even know, like we talked about, don't even know what that's about. Because
Right,
oftentimes it's not in words, because spirit lives in symbols,
right,
And so it's just this like, oh, I just need to reach out. Um,
right.
and so, what are some of the ways that they can connect with you?
They can connect with me. If you want to learn about me, just learn through my website, www.enolia.live, but we all have a story. Take the time to get to know my story. I also have 4 books out. And my first book, How I Found My Sovereign, Finding My Sovereign Voice with My Grandmother Elder. I tell you my story
Yeah.
right there, right then and there. It's on Amazon. Talk with me, have
Yes.
a conversation with me, approach me. And everybody goes, well, what are you? And yes, my initiation is with the Ojibwe, but I'm also accepted in the lineage of the Kuros Indians. I'm also accepted in the lineage of the Ovimbundu people. I've been initiated in Africa. So when I look at those initiations, and also I studied with the Lakota, I studied with the Wayataha, I studied with the Mapuche, I studied with a little bit of everybody. I believe that I am the representation of the world,
Yes.
and if you were to call me something, just call me Enolia, grandmother Enolia, because there's a certain point we have to transcend the labels.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
it's just Spirit has put this particular being called Grandmother Enolia here to work with people. And I am a culmination of that which is of the world.
Yeah. Beautiful. And you also can contact me. We'll put the information with this podcast so that you're able to see how to reach her. But also, she will be in the Cincinnati area from the 4th of this month through the 11th. And so, if you can't track her down, you can track me down and I'll put you in contact. So, I just want to thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for. First of all, what it takes to get to where you are, you know?
Thank,
I know like the work that it takes, and just bow to you for that. Just, because I believe that when each of us step into it, we make a groove in the universe that makes it easier for the next person and the next person and the next person. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for continuing to say yes to me and our friendship.
absolutely.
That just is it feeds me so much. Um, and thank you for being willing to share your wisdom with the world and out into the world, because that's a choice too. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and until next time.
Thank you, Juanita. And I just want to say to those who are out there, and I want to leave them with this: dream a beautiful dream, or you will be dreamt. Which is, if you don't hold a vision for yourself and allow life to become a walk to it, you will spend your days fulfilling what everybody perceives you to be and never fulfilling anything for yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.